Although I love every single one of the Pretty Pink Posh releases during the year, there are a few that everybody seems to get really excited for. One is their birthday release. They had that, it was already so much fun. Two is their Halloween release. Absolutely adorable, and again, a blast to create with. And the third is the release that is available right now, their holiday release. This release is huge. It's the cutest ever. It is jam-packed with stamps, dies, stencils, and new embellishments. So first, let's do a quick flip through of the new supplies. This is going to be very quick, so just remember that everything is linked down below. First up, we had the Winter Script die. Next up is the Upright Greetings Christmas, and there's a really gorgeous sentiment set, Winter Greetings stamps and dies. This is the Holiday Ornaments stamps and dies, great for coloring in with markers or pencils. This is the Snowflakes stamps and dies. I like to use that with heat embossing. This is the Holiday Icons stamps and dies. And next up is the Build and Ornament dies. I love these build dies where you can make so many different colors and cardstock or ink blending. Next up, we have the Big Christmas Cupcake die, the Ornament cover die, which cuts out all 6 circles and then 5 of them have ornament shapes in them. This is the Stitched Snowflakes dies, a bunch of different sizes and variations. This is the Fringe tree dies, which really comes together very cute. Holiday Wreath builder dies, another builder which I absolutely love. This is the Winter Hat shaker, makes it very easy to make a shaker. Large Joy shadow die, Christmas light garland, I love light garlands. This is the Snowflake shaker die. And we have the Holly Jolly shadow dies, which is the words and then the shadow you can cut out. For the stencils, we have the Layered Bows stencils. Next up, we have the Layered Winter Hats stencils, just 2 stencils, really easy. This is the Layered Snowmen stencils. And then there is the Cascading Snowflake stencil. That's a single stencil with different sizes of snowflakes. As for embellishments, we have the Berry Bright shaker beads. I love that color combination, so pretty with the pink. The Rustic Christmas shaker beads for those traditionalists, and the Snow Days shaker beads, which are so pretty with the silver. Now let's take those new supplies and make some cards. To start off, I have my waffle flower grip mat on my glass mat, which is my work surface. And I'm placing the Cascading Snowflake stencil on top of an A2 piece of white cardstock. I'm using some Catherine Pooler ink. It's called Cummerbund. And I have a large blending brush from Spellbinders, which I recently featured in a video. I love those large brushes. These are the Snowflake stamps and dies. I'm using some Versamark ink on some white cardstock, and that's so that I can heat emboss these images. I'm not going to color them in, I'm just going to have them be this Hero Arts Silver Sparkle embossing powder on the white cardstock. So in this card, I'm combining a bunch of different products, but they all are focused on snowflakes. So we started with the stencil, now we have the stamps. I'll cut those out with the coordinating dies, and this is the Snowflake shaker die. So I'm cutting it out of some foam from Spellbinders, and next I'll cut out the entire piece out of some acetate, and I like to use a metal shim when I cut out acetate because then I don't have to cut it out myself, which happens a lot. It doesn't go through often, but if you have a metal shim, it will work really well. So next I'll take that acetate and place it behind a piece of the fun foam, and that will create my shaker window. And then I'll place the other fun foam behind that, and I'll add some shaker goodies inside. And then I'll place some liquid adhesive that's on the back of the fun foam, and then place my stenciled cardstock down on top of that, trapping those shaker goodies inside. I'm stamping a sentiment from the greetings stamps, Christmas greetings stamps and dies, and then I'll cut that out. And then I have a few snowflakes from the Stitched Snowflakes die set, and I cut those out of Spellbinders glitter foam. So next I took my stenciled background, cut it down a little bit on the side so that I can mat it on some cardstock that really matched that shaker. And I'll have the winter greetings right on top of the shaker, not on top of the whole window, but just on the top of the snowflake. And I'll pop up the stamped and heat embossed snowflakes and then adhere down those purple glitter snowflakes. So much snowflake going on this. I love this frosty look as well. And those shaker beads match perfectly to that frosty kind of winter greetings look. If you've seen any of my previous Pretty Pink Posh videos, you know I love the big cupcake dies. They are so much fun to put together. I'm not much of a cake decorator or a cupcake decorator, but with these dies, I can pretend. The thing that I learned last time is that I love the look of two die cuts on top of each other, glued together. It just gives it a slight bit of dimension without using foam tape, just enough to make it look a little more substantial. It also is a little bit easier to work with that way. So I have the cupcake liner cut out of some silver mirror cardstock. The little cupcake itself is cut out of some brown cardstock, and then for that large Christmas tree of frosting, I have a green cardstock. I'll put a dot of adhesive at the top of the tree because there is a pretty star that you can cut out. There are also little presents, and I've cut those out of some glitter cardstock, but I am still layering them on top of each other. And they have little ribbons for each of the sizes of presents. I have two cut out in green with red ribbons, two cut out in red with green ribbons. There's also a little bow. There is a little snowflake. And then these are kind of what you could use as shaker goodies if you wanted to, or as little sprinkles on top of the cupcake. There's also a larger bow, and I've put that together, and I'll adhere that on top of the cupcake liner. To create the background, I'm using two different colors of green ink with the layered bows stencils, and then I'll cut that down to 4 by 5 1/4 so that I can mat it on some green cardstock. Even with all the little dimension, I do like to pop the entire cupcake up on some foam squares and place that right on top of the stencil panel, and then I'll add my little presents to the sides of the cupcake. I have a sentiment from the winter greeting stamps and dies that says Noel, so I'll heat set that in white embossing powder, and I love the way that white looks on the green cardstock. I'll use the coordinating dies to cut that out, and then a few foam squares to pop that up at the bottom of the cupcake. Again, cupcakes are so much fun to create, especially in cardstock. Next up, I'm starting with the background. This time I have the Winter Hats stencil. It's a layering stencil. The first layer I'll do in cummerbund, and then I'll line up the second layer and use a large blending brush to add cotton candy on top of that. And those hats are so adorable. For the winter shaker die, I'm cutting out the shaker and the window out of a piece of felt. And then I'll cut the entire shape out of some acetate and put some adhesive all around the outside of the window and then at the top and bottom of that acetate, and place the felt on top. And that will create my shaker window. Now there's another little die that you can cut another shaker piece out of, and that's out of the pom-pom. I just cut it out of a different color of felt so that I could layer it on top. Now I have that foam again from Spellbinders, and I'll cut two pieces out that will layer it up, and this way I'll be able to put my shaker beads inside that opening. This time I have the same color of foam, and I'll just place that on top of the first one that I've placed down on that stenciled background. Now I have my opening. I can pour in my shaker beads, and this is just another way to create a shaker. You can do it where you flip over the back, or you can do it like this where you build up from the bottom to the top. And then I'll place my felt with the acetate on top of that to trap those shaker goodies. I love these winter greetings. They're so beautiful. This time I'm using Warm Wishes. I like the mix fonts of the straight font and then the script font. It just looks so pretty, and I love having the dies to cut them all out because then you can pop them up on some foam adhesive, and I'll put that on the brim of the hat. I really love how those Snowy Days shaker beads roll around inside that shaker window. For this next card, I'm using the Build and Ornament dies. Whenever I use the Pretty Pink Posh Build dies, I love starting with colorful cardstock. So I cut out several of the ornaments in different colors of cardstock, and then there are decorations that you can cut out. I cut those all out of glitter cardstock. So there's some stripes, some stars, there's caps. Actually, the caps I cut out of silver mirror cardstock, but you can see there's lots that you can decorate, and there's different shapes of ornaments. So this is a really fun set that you can really do whatever you like. I'm using those non-traditional colors, but you could use whatever is your favorite. You could make the ornaments themselves out of glitter cardstock. Really just let your imagination run wild and have fun creating ornaments with this. Now I'm using some actual gold thread to tie little loops through the ornaments. So I put the piece of thread doubled up, and then I put the loop through the ornament cap, and then I tie a knot at the top and then trim it so that basically I'll have a little loop where you would hang the ornament from, and then there's a kind of little loop at the end that I think just looks kind of cute. Once again, I am stamping a sentiment from the Winter Greetings or Christmas Greetings stamp set and cutting it out with the matching dies. I love that stamp set. I'll be using it over and over again for a bunch of Christmas cards. I have a white piece of cardstock that I've cut down to 4 by 5 1/4, matted on some of the same lavender cardstock that I cut one of the ornaments out of. And now I have some foam squares behind these ornaments. So you can see I fit 3 large ornaments on one A2 card, and then I have the sentiment at an angle at the top, and I wanted to fill in some of that white space. So I used some of the decorations from the ornaments to adhere as little embellishments. I love that little bit of glitter around those ornaments as well. Next up, I wanted to use that Fringe tree die. So I've cut out all 4 pieces, and I've cut them all out of the same color of green cardstock. You could definitely layer different colors of green on top of each other. I love the fringes at the bottom. They're just so cute. This is such an easy little tree to put together. I did put foam in between each layer just to give it a little bit of dimension. It also comes with a star that you can cut out and a trunk for the tree. I've popped those up on small foam dots as well, foam squares. And next I want to use the Christmas light garland to decorate this tree. So basically you get the string die, and then you get a small die that cuts out 4 different ornaments in one pass. So I've cut out 3 different colors of ornaments, and this way I can have them alternating colors on the garland. I'll just take a little dot of adhesive and place it on the tab of the ornament die cut, and then place that underneath the little cap of that's on the garland. There's also a beautiful joy die. I'm using that as my sentiment. I've decided to add a little bit of glitter to the garland and the lights as well. So I have a quickie glue pen, and I'll just draw little shine marks on each of the bulbs and then pour some glitter on top. I have 1 piece of the strand at the bottom of the tree, and then I have the rest of the strand. I did trim off a little bit for the top of the tree, and I love how easy that was to decorate. And then I just placed that joy die, which I cut out of silver mirror cardstock, and placed it on some white fun foam that I die cut from the same die. The next card, I'm using the Build a Wreath die. This is such a fun die to play with. So I have 2 of the bows adhered together. Then there's a ring that you can cut out. And then there are different types of leaves, and each type has 3 different sizes. So I've cut them each out of a different color of green cardstock. And then I'm adhering them down to the ring, really just right on the ring with some liquid adhesive. Once I have the first layer down, then I'll use some foam adhesive to pop up more on top so it looks dimensional and it looks all nice and filled in. And then finally, I'll use little dots of adhesive and then adhere down the little berries that you can die cut, and then put the bow at the bottom of the wreath. Next, I love this sentiment, Have a Holly Jolly Christmas, from those Christmas greetings, stamps and dies. I'll pop up the entire wreath on some white cardstock and place the sentiment right in the center of the wreath. And then it's always fun to go in with a white gel pen and add a little bit of detail. I was going to do this first, but honestly, those little berries are so tiny, it's easier to do once they're on the wreath. For this card, I'm using the Ornament cover plate die, and I'm going to create a shaker. So I cut it out of white fun foam twice and once out of white cardstock. I'll adhere the two pieces of fun foam together with liquid adhesive and then set that aside to dry for a little bit. I'll adhere an A2 piece of acetate behind the cardstock piece. That'll create my window. And now I'm placing the panel base behind the two pieces of fun foam together and adhering that all together. I don't know why I did it from the back. You honestly could do it from the front. It would probably be just as easy. So this ornament cover die cuts out 5 different ornaments and then 1 plain circle. So each of the ornaments has different details that are die cut out of it or die cut into it as little details like stitched elements or little teeny tiny polka dots and things like that. There's a little die that has some items that you can use as shaker goodies. You can see those to the right there. And then there's also ornament caps. I'm using some anti-static powder on the edges of these circles because I don't want the beads to stick to the edges. So just make sure if there's anything that's tacky left behind from your glue, or if there's any static from the foam, which we all know there always is, it just helps a little bit. Now I'll place my shaker window right on top. I had some liquid adhesive on top of that fun foam, and now I'm creating my sentiment. I have the Holly Jolly in gold, and I placed that on some vellum and set it aside to dry. I'll adhere each of the ornaments that I colored in with ink so that they would each be 3 different colors matching the shaker beads, and then I'll adhere the Holly Jolly. And last but not least, I'll add some white gel pen details again. These would have been fine to add the details first. I didn't really think of it, and then when I had them adhered down, I thought I did want to add a few little dots here and there. I love all those shaker windows though. You could actually put caps on all of those too and make those into ornaments. However you want to create this card, it is such a fun one to make into a shaker card. As I mentioned at the top, this is a huge release, and of course I wasn't able to use it all in one video. I will have more coming very soon, so subscribe down below and you'll be sure to get the latest videos of mine as soon as they become available. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. The new supplies, new supplies. New supplies, new supplies. I wish I would just end things. Because when I go up, that means there has to be more. And sometimes I don't have any more. Moving on.